There is an important contradiction in the current political conversation in South Sudan that cannot be ignored. As the country moves forward for the December elections, some of the loudest voices now questioning the electoral process are the same voices that during the previous postponements loudly demanded to know why elections were being delayed. The question, therefore, is very simple. When elections were postponed previously, the argument from many of these political actors was that the leadership was unwilling to conduct elections and was using the transitional process to remain in power. The president and the government were repeatedly blamed for delays, while those making the accusations occupied senior positions with the same government and benefited from the political arrangement they were publicly criticizing. Today, however, elections are being prepared for, and the political narrative for some quarters has suddenly changed. The very people who demanded elections yesterday appear increasingly uncomfortable with elections today. The contradiction deserves scrutiny. The approaching elections are doing something politics often does. They are forcing people to show their cards. When the prospect of an actual vote becomes real, political positions become clearer. Those who genuinely believe in democracy should welcome the opportunity for citizens to decide who should lead them. If someone believes the government has failed, the elections provide the most legitimate platform to make that case. If someone believes the people want change, then the ballot box is precisely where that change should be pursued. One cannot demand elections when they appear politically convenient and reject them when the prospect of losing political privilege becomes real. There is also a troubling attempt to speak about the liberation struggle as though some of its principal figures disappeared from South Sudan's history once the country became independent. That is simply not an accurate reading of history. When speaking about those who stood with Dr. John Garang during the liberation struggle, one cannot erase those who remained beside him through some of the most difficult chapters of the struggle. President Shelfa was not an outsider to that history. He was one of the senior figures of the liberation movement and one of Dr. John Garang's closest comrades. To suggest that nobody was watching over the country after the demise of a certain liberator is therefore not merely an unfortunate statement, it minimizes the contribution of the many liberation-era leaders who remained alive and continued carrying the responsibility of the movement and later of the Republic. The liberation struggle was never the achievement of one individual. It was a collective sacrifice made by thousands upon thousands of South Sudanese. Its history belongs to all of them. That history should unite the country, not become another instrument for political division. There is a merit in the argument that South Sudan must honor its liberators and value its human resources. No serious South Sudanese should disagree with that. But honoring the liberators cannot be selectively invoking their names to legitimize the institutions and leadership that emerged from the same struggle. Nor should the suffering of individual veterans be turned into a political weapon. If former liberators are struggling, the answer should be a national conversation about how South Sudan honors its veterans, protects its human capital, and invests in its citizens. It should not be reduced to accusations that conveniently appear when elections are approaching. South Sudanese have waited a long time for the opportunity to exercise their political choice through elections. The December elections should therefore not be feared. They should be embraced. Those who believe the country is moving in the wrong direction should organize, campaign, and convince voters that is democracy. The people, not political elites, not former comrades, not social media commentators, and not individuals who have benefited from government positions, should ultimately decide. It is the people who should decide. It is also worth asking whether some of the current outrage is genuinely about the welfare of South Sudan, or whether it's about the political calculations that accompany an approaching election. For years, the public was told that elections were necessary. Now that elections are being prepared, the public is hearing arguments that appear designed to create doubt about holding them. South Sudanese are entitled to notice that contradiction. The country has endured war, displacement, political crisis, and enormous sacrifice. The answer cannot continually be another postponement, another political arrangement, or another excuse for delaying the people's opportunity to choose. If the people are the wealth of the nation, as the liberation generation repeatedly emphasized, then the people must also be trusted with the power to choose their leaders. Because when elections come, political cards are revealed, and ultimately, it is not the loudest voice that should determine the future of South Sudan, it is the voice of the people of South Sudan.